I don't know how to say this. I'm not sure how to approach it. The thing is, I made a decision. Every Friday for the past 4.5 years, I've been coming here to see you, and it's become a habit, something I do without questioning. But this morning, my mother was buried. Did I mention that? She was. She died. She was killed by her shower massage. Anyway, there at the funeral, some things became disturbingly clear to me. My sister was there. She sang. As you know, Bernadette, I, I think she's completely insane. For instance, our birthday parties were pageants of hysteria. Our mother would throw us one party, our being twins, and every year she would have what I recognized even back then as a mini nervous breakdown. I mean, when we were 10, we had a clown. I'll never forget. That was the year she slipped irredeemably around the bend. It was hot, August. Must have reached 110 degrees on the front lawn that day. There were about 24 children there, none of whom I particularly liked, and none of whom were having a particularly good time. So we just sat there sad with our children on a burned up patch of grass. My mother had, as usual, planned the day with military precision. 2 o'clock, three-legged race, 2:15, passing oranges under our chin, and 3 o'clock. The entertainment arrived. A clown, Mr. Giggles. Mr. Giggles was extremely old. It's true, all adults seem old to small children, but Mr. Giggles would have seemed very old to very old people. He was old. His skin was the texture and non-color of white raisins. In any event, Mr. Giggles made flowers spring from umbrellas and foam balls from behind our ears. He was maniacally cheerful, despite the fact that none of us joined in or laughed or moved. Mr. Giggles thought some singing would rouse us from our collective coma. So he sang 100 bottles of beer on the wall, only we were 10. So he sang 100 bottles of milk on the wall. Not very imaginative, Mr. Giggles. He sang loudly and with what should have been infectious joy. 100 bottles of milk on the wall, 100 bottles of milk. And yeah, we tried. We all joined in at first, I think. Mr. Giggles ran around in a desperate frenzy, wild for us to perform, but it was so hot. We made it to 90 bottles of milk, 80 bottles of milk, and then I could take it no more. I just lay my head down and on the earth and shut my eyes. Giggles ran over to me and knelt down beside me and sang right at me, shouting, more than singing really. He screamed at me, 82 bottles of milk on the wall, 82 bottles of milk. But I refused to stir. I just opened my eyes and stared at this fascist clown. And then another little boy stopped singing. Tommy Leonardo, I think. He just let his head fall forward and fell silent. Giggles leapt over to him and shrieked with rage, 81 bottles of milk on the wall! 81 bottles of milk! And then all the other children started to follow suit. Like spontaneous suicides, their voices fell silent. By now, Giggles was in the throes of a desperate frenzy, in a demented fit, running crazily from child to child, screaming with spit flying out of him and sweat spraying off him. He would not give up. By now, no one was singing, except my sister, who would participate in this deranged duet at any cost. I just sat there and watched as Giggles flapped his arms like spastic birds until he lost count completely. 52 bottles of milk on the wall, 48 bottles of milk, and then he fell over in a sad, wet, broken pencil heap. The silence was palpable. Bernadette, abandoned, looked at me. He's dead, I whispered. She shrieked and ran in horror from the yard and into the street, where a bread truck swerved to avoid hitting her and ran headlong into a mammoth oak tree. Shaking loose from his perch, our cat, which fell to an ugly, bloody death, impaled by the truck's antenna and splattered on the windshield. Obviously, Giggles had had a stroke, but he lived. Still, Bernadette cried for a week and refused to eat solid food until one day she passed out from malnutrition and had to be taken to the hospital. So heavy was her burden of guilt for the death of our cat. To this day, she has a neurotic relationship with food, for which she blames me, no matter how irrational, because she is irrational. But as she walked away from me on the cemetery lawn today, I couldn't help but feel jealous. She's insane, obviously, and unhappy, I think. But she certainly participates. And she clearly feels things. I think I ought to have felt something today. Grief, anger, joy, something, but no. And she has someone in her life. No one I would pick, but someone. Well, I, on the other hand, have been coming here every Friday for the past 4.5 years. And I'm about to celebrate my 11th anniversary of physical and emotional celibacy. Simon's been dead for 11 years, Dr. McMahon, and I'm still waiting. I don't even remember if I loved him anymore. I remember thinking I did, but there has to be a difference, doesn't there? I don't have any real contact with anyone, including myself. There is my convict, but the point is this. I don't seem to be making any progress. I don't mean to criticize. It's not about blame. I'll take all the blame if you want, but God, I'm inertia, given human form. What I suddenly realized and understood this morning is I have to try something else. This just isn't working. So, with my finances and their current state of decrepitude, and as I'm making no headway, not one iota of progress, I feel it's time for me to stop coming here. I think I should terminate my therapy.